make of all of this?
Well, good morning, Samson. Good morning to Amanda and to Prof and to our viewers out there. Samson, I'm not a lawyer, as you well are aware of. I am a communicator. I've done journalism.
You're a maker of the law.
My master's is in development management. And I'm now making the laws in Ghana as a representative of the people of Tamale North, and by the grace of God. So my approach is not going to be legalistic. It's going to be, if you like, commonsensical. And it's going to be, it's going to reflect what I do, a representative of the people. And so it's going to represent.
But it is fair to require that it shouldn't prejudice the process.
No, I'm careful about that.
All right.
By my training, I'm careful about prejudice when the case is being looked at, especially by no meaner person than the Chief Justice. But I'm going to start from a remote area. Now, I have held a position that our Constitution needs review. I've heard calls for a constitutional review, and I agree with those calls. But I've often said that our problem as a country is not more with the text of our Constitution than it is with the people that we put in office. It's not more with the text than it is with the people we put in office, the attitude of the people we put in office. Look, some of the inadequacies of our Constitution has come to light more of late because the government in power, with His Excellency the President, have sought to push the text of the Constitution to, in some cases, absurd limits. And that is why people are raising their voices more than ever before that there's a need for a constitutional review. Morality counts in the application of law. The morals of the people in charge is supreme. Look, we have never had a ceiling as to how many ministers a president can appoint, for example. But no president has ever so abused it like now. And so it doesn't matter how well you draft the text. If you put a person who doesn't have restraint in power, you are going to have another situation. Look, and I'm making this point because there are 3 appointments that His Excellency the President made that I thought, by all standards, with good governance in mind, with the aim of building and strengthening institutions, he would not have considered. The appointment of Madam Jean Mensa to the Electoral Commission. For me, any well-meaning person would not have considered her, not because she's not qualified, but because of the history of that institution, given the way Charlotte Osei was removed, the basis upon which she was removed, and the attitude of Madam Jean Mensa running IEA and her long conflicts with some political parties. I mean, if you wanted a person
the political
to go without a baggage,
always agreed with somebody or the next.
I'm not talking about
IEA was doing a very good job, and I think they do. And Jean Mensa was leading that, even making sure pioneering, draft legislation for.
I mean,
good
we are all
governance.
entitled to our opinions. That's your opinion of the IEA. I'm saying that.
Let's try and stay.
If you pardon me, like I said, I'm not doing legalistic. I'm doing, my assessment of the issues as I understand it. And I'm saying that I will get to this matter, but that's why I sought your permission to start from a remote area. Look, the IEA may have been doing well, but it's also on record that the IEA, when Madam Jean Mensa was leading it, constantly was at loggerheads with the NDC. Constantly. That's something you can deny. Fairly or not,
when the
that
NDC was
is a
in
fact.
opposition.
No, even when it was in government. I mean, when the IEA pushed for biometric registration, the NDC was in government. So I'm saying that constantly.
The NDC was part of many IEA meetings, agreeing on a lot of things and roadmaps and legislations that they mooted. So
I'm not saying they never agreed with the IEA.
Right.
I'm just saying that constantly
All right.
it was in the news that they constantly had running battles with her at the IEA. It's in there. I mean, we all used to cover those stories. They were constantly in disagreement with her. So I'm saying that if I were the president and I wanted to build an independent institution and bring about some credibility around an institution like the Electoral Commission after Madam Charlotte's removal, I would not have put in somebody there that have had the history of, being at loggerheads with the major opposition. That's the first appointment I have issues with. The second appointment was Kisi Ejabing. And I'm not going to go into the details. He's a fantastic lawyer. He's a great, young man with a lot of prospects in the profession that he does. I mean, he has engaged in. But there are certain reasons that if I were in the president's position, I would have looked at, and for that reason, maybe I would have looked for another equally qualified young person to be in that position. Now, the third one was Mr. Martin Amidu. And during Mr. Martin Amidu's vetting, I made it clear why I was opposed to Mr. Martin Amidu. And you can still go online and read my reasons why I was opposed to Mr. Martin Amidu. And he has vindicated me all along.
So like Amidu, you have opposed Kisi Ejabing's appointment from day one?
From day one.
Okay.
Not because he's not qualified, not because I don't think he's an intelligent person who is capable of handling the position, but I'm saying that when you are a leader in charge of a nation that is so polarized, and you are minded about building institutions that can engender the support and confidence of Ghanaians from all walks of life, you'll be very careful about the people you pick to lead those institutions.
Amidu opposed Ejabing day one. What are your reasons for this, that Ejabing shouldn't have been the one?
Like I'm saying, there are some of the issues I'll not go into. Mr. Martin Amidu has raised some of them in a way that I disagree with. But you see, because he has been appointed and he's now in charge of that body, in my view, they have become moot. They are really not issues that we should discuss anymore.
I'm saying that going into the substantive.
Yes, I'm getting there. So I'm saying that because of the attitude of the president, we have some of these problems that we are having. He has appointed people to positions that perhaps he should not have, appointed them into those positions. And maybe he had
the
a
public
reason.
will ask, who at all is it that the president would have appointed that you will be happy with as an NDC MP?
I'm not talking about, you see, it shouldn't be reduced to me. It doesn't matter if I disagree with the person. But you see, my disagreement, the basis of my disagreement should not be something you can discount. I mean, for example, if I tell you that, look, because Madam Jane Mensah was always at loggerheads with the NDC, I don't think she should have been at the, should have been the umpire or the referee.
President Akufo-Addo.
Yes.
As candidate.
It's something you can disagree with.
Boycotted Jane Mensah's political debates, presidential debates. Boycotted it.
Yeah.
So that's also an issue.
No,
but let's go to,
but not because of IEA, not because of Jane Mensah, but because of the conduct of people who were at the first one that he attended. He said so.
So let's move on.
His problem was not with IEA. His problem was with Kojo Opong, unfortunately, or fortunately, who has become his appointee now. So let's separate the facts. I mean, there are nuances to it, but if you generalize this, you miss the point that I'm making. Now, I'm saying that if you look at these appointments from day one, they sought to create these problems that we are having to discuss today. Mr. Martin Amidu was seen as someone who had fallen out, with the NDC, and so was like the bulldog set to go after NDC appointees. And unfortunately, he went into the office and perhaps didn't live up to the expectation of the president because he had his own mind as he went in there, and then they fell out.
The enemy of your enemy is my friend.
Became exactly, sort of. And I believe that is what informed the president's decision to appoint Mr. Martin Amidu there. And not, the president, I don't think, was really informed by, his decision was not informed by the conviction to build an institution that we could all trust.
I hope you are not trying to belittle Martin Amidu's stature as we have known over the years.
You see, if you look at Mr. Martin Amidu's petition now, today, clearly, he's judging Kisi Ejabing based on his standard. Mm-hmm. So he gives examples, for example, when I was there and this, his standard is poor. I'm sorry. I mean, he's somebody who has done so much for this country. But he has also done very, very poor things and terrible things. You know, and so he cannot be judging his predecessor based on his standard.
Kisi is not about the law. Kisi is not about the law.
I'll get there.
There are circumstances and evidences of wrongdoing. He should be dealt with.
Yes. I'm saying that his standard, Mr. Martin Amadu's standard, is not the one we should use to judge Kisi Ejabing's performance. Because Mr. Martin Amidu's standard, in my view, was that bad and low. And in his petition, he seems to be suggesting that his standard was the best standard, and that is the way Kisi should have proceeded. And that, again, in my view, is typical Martin Amidu for you. Just as he left the Attorney General office and felt that any other Attorney General who took over, you know, fell below his standard, he is doing the same thing in this case. And I'm saying that, look, if we are minded to assess people who have taken over from him by his standard, then we will not be going, you know, forward as a country. And that is why I rather will want to discuss the alacrity with which the president has acted on this petition. I mean, yes, it may be based on different provisions of the Constitution, but the operative word is shall. That when the president receives a petition, he shall forward same to either the Chief Justice or the Council of State, as the case may be, for action to be taken. And in the past, when the president received a petition involving Madam Charlotte Osei, the argument, like, because I'm not a lawyer and I listen to the lawyers, the argument made at the time was that the president had to automatically transmit the petition to the Chief Justice. And I had issues with that because my common sense couldn't accept that. I didn't understand why the president would be made a poster boy for any petitioner.
He's just a conveyor belt.
I couldn't understand that. I thought that the framers of the Constitution had a motive, making the president the recipient of a petition.
Because he's the appointer.
Yeah, but you see, he should be a gatekeeper of a sort, in my view. That is what I thought. But the lawyers educated us otherwise and said he was supposed to just be a conveyor belt.
Correct.
I disagreed with that commonsensically. But legally, I grant the lawyers who are trained to interpret these things.
Because he has no duty, he has no business in the process.
But even with my difficulty with the explanation that was given, the legal explanation that was given, I was expecting that on that note, any other petition that the president received would be treated the same way. That it is, you see, things must be logical, so as for not to, assume bias or assume ill motive. So if the president acted in that manner when Charlotte Osei was petitioned against, I expected that when Jean Mensah is petitioned against, I'll get the same attitude from the president. But it's on record that the president has been petitioned not once and not by one person, but two people at least I know, two different petitions that I know of against Madam Jean Mensah. And the president has not as much as even acknowledged the petition being sent to him. And so you begin to wonder, what makes the president act? Is it when the petition is in sync with his agenda? Or is he really a law-abiding president who has sworn by the Constitution to uphold the Constitution of Ghana? Clearly, with the two examples, the latter is the case. It seems he acts only when the petition is in line with his agenda. And that is why some of us
But as I noted,
yes,
this one, so you in Parliament decided that since presidents want to abuse the constitutional provision, Article 146, which simply says you receive it and you forward, and it doesn't give timelines, we know that good people can even make bad constitutions good.
Yeah.
But presidents have abused this. So you decided that for the OSP Act, let's put timelines there and force the president to forward it within 7 days. Yeah. The CJ is forced under compulsion to determine within 30 days. The committee that will sit should not also sit forever. They have 14 days within which to bring their decision.
90 days, I think, section 55.
90 days, thank you very much. 90 days to make their decision. So this is it. This is an improvement on that provision. So in this case, you can't make that comparison.
Well, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sure you agree with me, as you educate us, that an act does not, overthrow a constitutional provision. It may clarify it, it may enhance it, but once the Constitution says, and my issue really is not with what the president has done by forwarding this. My issue is with why he has not done same in all cases. I'm not challenging the president for doing what he has done. Yes, he is going by the dictates of Act 959.
Right, Section 15.
Section 15 of Act 959. But I'm saying that we also have Article 146, is that it?
Yes.
And we also have petitions that have been sent under Article 146. And he is minded to act on an act of parliament. How come he's lackadaisical? He's pussyfooting. When it
presidents generally have abused Article 146 because when the petition
the generality of the abuse doesn't make it unquestionable.
Yeah, all right.
The generality of the abuse doesn't mean we shouldn't question it.
All right.
So the point I'm making is that I think that the problem is with the attitude of the president. Even before we go into the merit or otherwise of Mr. Martin Amidu's claims, I think that we are faced with this problem because we have a president who is regime-centered more than he is concerned about the building of a state that should have institutions such as the Special Prosecutor Office to help in the fight against corruption.
Okay.
His commitment to the fight against corruption, by all intents and purposes, and the things he has done in the past and the things he's doing now, clearly show that it's zero. He's not just committed to the fight against corruption. He is interested in...
He passed this act, which is a most effective way to fight corruption.
Is it?
He is the one who eventually ensured that the Right to Information Act was passed, which is another great move to bring sunshine, which we say is the best disinfectant. Professor Kwapong, thank you very much for joining us.
But Samson, the
from
RTI
a governance angle,
it's not about passing these laws, because these laws, in fact, I'm sure they were drafted and they were pushed long before he became president.
20 years.
Yes. So if they were passed, we will expect a certain level of commitment when it comes to its implementation.
You're right about that.
The RTI
you're
law,
right about that.
Only recently, when the let's okay, so I'll let you proceed at least.
So you see,
agree with me
when I make
that,
if you're familiar with me as one of the lead campaigners for the RTI Act, you will know that I have stated without any equivocation that the RTI law was ripe and was about to be passed by the NDC government in 2016.
Absolutely.
But the NPP, because you had delayed, the NPP shut it down because they wanted to take the praise for it. And they have done it. So whatever the situation, they did it.